Final Destination is a US horror film series that goes back to James Wong's 2000 movie. See up to part 3, the same named Rare View. In each of the films, through visions, someone is able to save themselves and others from a catastrophe. However, since they were supposed to die, death takes all of his intended victims one after the other, or in succession, just like it fits the script.
Going up to the spirit in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and the name is to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the best.
In 2009, in The Final Destination by David R. Ellis, who also made part 2, lovers Nick and Laurie escape a catastrophic accident on the racetrack, thanks to a vision from Nick. Shortly afterwards, however, several people from Nick's vision die violent deaths, and during research they came across reports of a death list that can be interrupted if one escapes death often enough. The fourth part received negative feedback across the board and is quite rightly regarded as the weakest of the series. All of the characters either fall into the category snoreheads, like the main actors, or cliched and unlikable, or the rest. And the simple-minded 3D scenes quickly get on your nerves, even worse in 2D of course. It did, however, made its $40 million budget worldwide 4.5 times back, and was, until part 6 changed that, the most financially successful of the series. The main reason for the good performance at the box office is, in my opinion, brazen marketing. The title suggests that it is the last part, the 3D surcharge on the ticket price, up to 50% after all, and the fact that many people like me were so excited in 2009 thanks to Avatar on the Horizon, which was released a few months later and brought with it the second big 3D wave at the time. The first was in the 50s, the one at the beginning of the 80s fizzled out so quickly barely anyone noticed it. Initially went to quite a few 3D films, especially R-rated horror, as it was rare just for the effect. At the end, the last 3 survivors think, as usual, that they have cheated death. But 2 weeks later, Nick realizes, presumably because he had read the script, that his final vision only served to lead them where death wanted them to be. And as usual, they died too.
Prepare yourself, you know it's a must. Gotta have a friend in Jesus. So you know that when you die, he's gonna recommend you to the spirit in the sky.
In Final Destination 5 from 2011, Sam is, thanks to visions, able to save work colleagues and Molly, who just has broken up with him, from a bridge collapse during an outing. At the funeral, he is approached by a coroner who warns him. Shortly afterwards, several of the survivors die violent deaths, one after the other, and reveals that death is working through a list of names in the exact order of Sam's vision. But it is possible to break the chain by killing another person, huh? You then get credit for his lifetime or what? Of course, this leads to some murder and manslaughter.
So you know that when you die, he's gonna recommend you to the spirit in the sky. Won't recommend you to the spirit in the sky. That's where you're gonna go when you die. When you die and you lay you to rest, you're gonna go to the place that's the best.
Stephen Quayle's 5th installment, also released in 3D, received quite rightly mostly positive feedback. It was the best rated to date, and at the same budget as its predecessor, made it 4 times worldwide back. Even if a new outrageous rule is pulled out of a hat here, it is actually the best of the sequels, and for me on par with part 1. The first one has the creepier atmosphere and the better introductory accident, but part 5 is the overall better made movie. Has an exciting story with good characters and inventive ways to die. The introductory catastrophe is, compared to the god-awful 4th part, very well staged again this time. And the same applies to the effects in general, especially the ones in 3D. At the end, Sam and Molly board a plane to Paris, which turns out to be flight 180 from the first movie, making this part a prequel. Its crash also kills the third survivor who never boarded it.
Never been a sinner, I never sinned. I got a friend in Jesus. So you know that when I die, He's gonna set me up with the Spirit in the sky.
2025 in Final Destination Bloodlines, college student Stephanie has a dark premonition of a fatal accident that dates back to a construction accident in 1968, in which her grandmother Iris once cheated death. She learns from her, now completely isolated, that she prevented the disaster at the time thanks to a vision by warning the people the restaurant never opened. But in the years that followed, the guests and their families died one by one. In the process, she wrote down the tricks of death in a completely useless book, which she gives to Stephanie before handing herself over to death as proof. When several family members die in freak accidents, she, together with brother Charlie and mother Darlene, tries to figure out the deadly plan. They receive support from the mysterious William Bloodworth, the visibly ill, one and only Candyman Tony Todd in his last role, who gets here a backstory. He is one of those saved by Iris in 1968. Part 6 by Zach Lebowski and Adam Stein also received mostly positive feedback, again the highest rated so far, and made with a $50 million budget, already after 2 weeks, almost $200 million worldwide back, making it the most successful of the series. The movie is okay, on a similar level as Part 3, so over the top you can hardly take it seriously. It almost seems like a quite entertaining cartoon.
So you know that when you die, gonna recommend you to the Spirit in the sky. Won't recommend you to the Spirit in the sky. That's where you're gonna go when you die. When you die and you lay you to rest, you're gonna go to the place that's the best. Won't set me up with the Spirit in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and you lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the best. Go to the place that's the best.
The unusually long running time of 110 minutes, the others were around 90, is hardly noticeable. At the end, the last 3 survivors think, as usual, that they have cheated death. But of course, this is not the case.